button. Folks, if you want to unmute, all you have to do is hold down your space bar to talk, and it will unmute. And then if you let the space bar go, it will mute back. So just keep that in mind. I still don't know what Barry's doing over there, but figure that out later. There, oh, he's on the phone. So a couple of housekeeping things. One is DGE, Harry and I and Pat and Sheila are working on we've got a couple of year-end things we have to wrap up. One is the awards ceremony, which we're going to do something virtual at some point. We've got a date for folks to turn in their turn in information, and then we'll have a virtual event. Unfortunately, an in-person event that was scheduled for August 1st cannot happen. So more information coming on that. We're going to do, Harry's got some ideas and we're working through it now. An email should go out hopefully then next week about how we're going to do a virtual handing over the baton, so to speak, and, try to induct any presidents that want to be inducted by the governor. So some end of the year things there we're working through. Travis and I have been working on this great face shield project for the district, and I'm excited. I think I can talk a little bit more about it. I pretty much have the go-ahead at this point, and so we're going to purchase 30,000 face shields and have them divided through the 12 areas of our district and delivered to hospitals and frontline providers through our clubs. More information will be coming. Pat's going to help with the logistics, and she did a great job of putting a paper together where the hospitals are located. And so we'll give you some timelines on that from the time we purchase to the time we receive them. And but just a great project that every club can lend a hand in. And we want to make sure we have stories from this that we're telling, the great work that Rotary does. And I just really appreciate past District Governor Travis and his team for making this thing possible. The other thing is, again, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but you all did receive the letter that went out last night at 8:30, and we also posted it, thanks to Dave Borowski, on our Facebook page. And let people know this is something a lot of thought went into regarding the current race situation, and we felt strongly as district leaders that we don't sit idly by, but make a statement of inclusion, celebrating diversity, inclusion, but also being a part of the solution. And we really believe Rotary is a vehicle to bring that solution in a lot of ways through diversity of our membership, through the inclusion that we believe in of all people, but also the output, the work that we're doing in our communities to help those marginalized and in need. And so I am proud, Harry Henderson led the effort to get that letter written. Pat, Sheila, and myself, and a lot of other people read over the letter, made suggestions, and helped us get to the point where we can have one voice. And so I'll leave it at that, but we will be moving forward in the new year, again, with doing more work with our Diversity and Inclusion Committee. We're going to find ways to put our words to action, and we look forward to the new Rotary year. So now, our speaker, speaking of someone who embodies those thoughts and ideas, I had the chance to hear her speak. Gosh, well, it was back in May around the 1st of May, and it was so long ago that I freaked out this week when I looked back in the email and said, oh my God, I saw an email that didn't go to her, and I thought we didn't communicate, and she thought I was crazy, essentially. She's like, well, we've talked, I've got everything. And so I was freaking out, and thought I'd left her hung out to dry, but luckily she was on point. We had the conversation, and she was prepared. But Alex Ritchie has been instrumental in District 7600, both on the Rotaract side and as a Rotarian, really lifting up young professionals in Virginia and getting them involved in the organization. She has a lot of insight around this. And one of the most neat things is the incoming RI president sent out and Alex can correct me if I'm wrong. That he wanted to have 3 Rotaract conferences across the globe. And he asked folks to send in the proposal, and only 3 were selected. And Alex's proposal was one of the 3 accepted. So she is having an event in Charlottesville. And that just goes a long way of understanding her aptitude and her knowledge and her abilities. And I think her message today is very important. So I hope everybody listens and asks questions, because this is the future of our organization. Bob, we don't have a fillable form, but we can talk about that later offline. So without further ado, I'm going to turn things over to Alex Ritchie. And again, thank you so much for being here today and with us.
Absolutely. Wow. Thank you for the introduction, Governor Jonathan. I appreciate it. It's great to be here with you guys. Let me just get my screen up here. Let me know if you guys can see that okay. How's that look? Good? Okay.
Good.
All right, perfect. Well, I can't thank you guys enough for the invitation. This is a really nice way to break up the workday. I was talking with Governor Jonathan and a few others at the beginning of the call. This is a really unique model to stay connected and also to inspire some collaboration. So I feel lucky to have the chance to join you all today. My goal personally is that when we go through these slides, this is a dialogue, a conversation more than anything. So please feel free to stop me at any point with questions or comments. There is a lot in here. I will preface by saying that I do take a Rotaract perspective, but as Jonathan mentioned, I am a dual member of both Rotary and Rotaract, so kind of have my foot in both camps, so to speak. But I thought that for the sake of our time together today, the Rotaract perspective can be valuable, but really the strategies and the ideas that we're going to talk about apply to any audience that we don't currently have engaged in Rotary that we would like to engage better. So that really is the goal. So with that, we'll go ahead and jump in. My name is Alex, as Governor Jonathan mentioned. I am from District 7600 in Richmond, Virginia. I'm originally from Mobile, Alabama, though, and I grew up in the Midwest in St. Louis, so I kind of bounced around a bit, but Richmond is what I would consider home. Professionally, I am the clinic director for a family practice here in Richmond, which has been quite an interesting dynamic given everything going on with the virus right now. My academic background is in biomedical engineering and physiology. So my ultimate end goal is to one day hopefully become a physician. So a lot of school left ahead of me. But so in terms of my experience with Rotary and how I really came to love this organization, I don't have any family member in Rotary. I had truthfully never seen the wheel before until my first experience in Interact. So as a high school student working with Rotarians. And, you know, at first it was kind of odd, right? Because there were Rotarians in the room of my high school, and it was just a different dynamic than anything I was used to before. But the piece that I quickly fell in love with through this partnership with Rotary, the interactors were able to do projects that were sustainable. And that's the piece that I still hold on to today. Rotary isn't about quick solutions or Band-Aid solutions, not short-term fixes, but rather long-term change. And that is something that I want to be a part of, you know, for the rest of my life. So when I first transitioned into Rotaract, it was kind of a difficult period of my life. My parents filed for divorce when I was in my senior year of high school. So my college plans kind of shifted a bit. And I'm a planner, which, you know, is a challenge for me, as I'm sure you can imagine. And so I ended up at a community college, which at the time I thought was the worst thing in the world in comparison to a four-year school. But it ended up being one of the single most valuable experiences of my life because of Rotary. And it was really, that was where I formed my first Rotaract club and transitioned into the district role in 7600, but it was through the Rotarians who took an interest in me, who mentored me, guided me, and saw talents that I brought to the table that I hadn't cultivated yet. And by providing that opportunity, I think I really came into my own, and it's because of those relationships that I'm the young person that I am today. So needless to say, Rotaract and Rotary are a huge part of my life. I have some pretty unique opportunities that I'm grateful for to work at the zone level with our Zone 33 coordinator team on bringing this Elevate Rotaract movement to life in our districts and in our clubs. So if that's the first time you're hearing of that, no worries, we will get into it. But I just wanted to provide some background so that you guys can get to know me a little bit better. And with that, we'll go ahead and jump in here. So just to give you a quick look at where we're going to go today, we're going to talk a little bit about membership in the context of what we can do right now amidst the situation that our world is dealing with, and how we look beyond that to make sure that we're engaging audiences that are going to increase our ability to be effective. And then we'll transition into Elevate Rotaract and how this relates to bringing in more young professionals into Rotary. And just in general, it's an elevation of the entire organization, not just of Rotaract. So we'll go into some details and talk about some opportunities that you could consider as we go into the next Rotary year. And then we'll close out by talking about this idea of relevancy and how we've seen a bit of an evolution, so to speak, but in terms of our interaction with Rotarians who have been in the organization for a long time, and those that we're looking to bring in are, the newer people coming into Rotary. So we'll talk about how that dynamic has changed, how we might improve on it to allow more people to experience the Rotary that we all fell in love with. So I wanted to this slide is really designed to just provide a framework, a perspective, so to speak, for our conversation today. So I encourage you to keep these three things in mind as we're talking about the Rotary, Rotaract, and young professional dynamic. So we'll start up here in the top left. Now is the time to get creative. Governor Jonathan was just talking about how there is a lot of challenge, to say the least, facing our world right now. And because of that, I think the world and our communities, both locally and internationally, need us now more than ever, to be strong, to be on top of our game, and more importantly, to be collaborative, whether it be with Rotaractors, with other young professionals, with other Rotarians, with community organizations that are supporting causes that we would like to be a part of. Now is the time to get creative. And I think from that creativity, we have this call to action to be collaborative, which is this square in the bottom left here. And when we're talking about collaboration, it can mean a lot of different things, from group work to just collaborating with an individual. But I think what Rotary focuses on when we're thinking about this term collaboration is about yielding these spaces or these areas and opportunities where we have the ability to be both innovative and creative. So this spirit of entrepreneurship that Rotary International was founded on all those years ago. And in order for us to do that, we as Rotarians and in our Rotary clubs, we have a unique call to action to seek out intentionally new ideas, different perspectives, and project and service ideas that challenge what we might do or consider to be our norm. And it's through those challenges that we allow Rotary, our clubs, and our work to be more effective and more impactful, which is what the world needs right now more than ever. And so, the other thing I just challenge you to keep in mind as we go through this is that we're presented with a unique opportunity. While there's a lot of negative going around right now, to say the least, this is also a chance for us to better our new normal and come out on the other side of these challenges stronger and better positioned to be effective. And so the way that we do this is through the strategies that we're going to talk through today, but really focusing on this idea of bringing people to the table, like Governor Jonathan mentioned, to start the dialogue, to have the conversation, and get the ideas flowing. So a couple of things high level that I wanted to just kind of talk about for you to consider. I apologize for not hearing who said it, but someone on the call mentioned that they just had their first Zoom meeting, which is an incredible place to start. So another thing to keep in mind as we go through this time and we're looking to engage audiences and not lose the essence of Rotary in our communities is keeping intentional relationship building at the center. So if we think way back to when Paul Harris started this whole thing, he started this on the foundation of friendship. Right? He was lonely in the city and was looking to make friends and expand his professional network while doing good things to support the community around him. And so we as Rotarians should encourage our partners, our Rotaractors, and our club members to remember this foundation. And it's through that foundation that we have the opportunity to ask difficult questions and questions that we might not be used to asking. Everything from, what is your perspective on this issue? What is your opinion on how Rotary could proceed to support this effort? What drives you? What's motivating to you? What are you looking to change about the community around us? And how can we work together to make that possible? Even if the people are coming from different backgrounds, different age groups, whatever that is. And it's through this coming together that we're able to effectively meet the needs of our service partners and our members, which of course includes our Rotaractors. So following from that, we get into this point that we've been talking about a lot already today. Meeting together is critical. So one of the things I wanted to recommend, the next time that your club has an online meeting, reach out to a Rotaractor, reach out to a young professional. Even if they're not officially affiliated with their club, give them the opportunity to see how Rotary is adapting to this time of COVID-19. give them the opportunity to see that we are still here, we're still showing up, we're still serving our community. It just looks a little bit different. And it's through that we open these effective, sustainable communication channels where we allow people to have a seat at our table and contribute to our vision and be a part of our story. So this last part, following from both of those 2 points, is about refocusing and rethinking our service. And again, getting back to this idea of collaboration. So my challenge to you, or my encouragement, would be during one of your upcoming online meetings, have a discussion about the current needs facing your community. There are plenty of them, I'm sure, right now. And so the question I encourage you to focus on is, how can your Rotary Club utilize the talents, the networks, the resources, and the experiences of young professionals, of Rotaractors, of people in your community outside of Rotary to help meet those needs in a way that is creative and sustainable. Bringing other people into the fold that aren't officially affiliated with Rotary is, of course, helpful to the future of Rotary, but it's also helpful to the present. It allows us to broaden our reach and be more effective. So, in order for us to fully understand this dynamic between Rotaract and Rotary, we have a couple of big questions to answer. So why Rotaract and why right now? So to start with the why Rotaract piece, the next slide will walk us through a couple of the details, but I'm sure many of you have heard of the recent Elevate Rotaract movement as a result of the Board of Director decisions and the Council and Legislation decisions, which I know you all rushed home right away to read those documents. But to summarize, why Rotaract? Why should we focus our efforts on this as opposed to starting a new Rotary Club or a new satellite club, a new e-club? Why Rotaract? Well, the idea is that Rotaract provides a development experience for young people looking to eventually have the opportunities that we've had as Rotarians. So it really is an opportunity for them in a low-risk environment to fall in love with Rotary, to become forever Rotarians while having that strong sense of collaboration with you all. So not only does it add an additional dimension to our clubs, but you're also mentoring and empowering another generation to get involved in the experience and in the solution development. So with this new opportunity with the Elevate Rotaract movement, we are seeing our Rotaractors transition from being a program, right, something that Rotary sponsors and, kind of a parent and child dynamic, to a partnership. So Rotaract is officially recognized now as a membership type or a membership channel within the Rotary family. So what this means for us as Rotarians is we have a unique opportunity to add value to that experience, because the truth is, while this has been recognized, it's up to us as Rotarians to bring that international level decision into our clubs, into our districts, and determine what it's going to look like for the young people in our communities as well as our clubs. So in addition, ideas yield growth. We all know that. And when we give those other people on the Rotaract end of things, the young professional, the community side, the opportunity to sit at our tables and engage with us, that's where we see true growth and lasting change. And the last point I wanted to make is that Rotaract Club specifically can help in your club's work with the Rotary Foundation. So we're seeing many districts give Rotaract Clubs access to district grant funding if they apply, of course, in partnership with a Rotary Club. So the idea through this is that the Rotaractors and the Rotarians will work together to co-lead the project. And the long-term goal here is that Rotaractors will, this will officially be their foundation one day as well. And we want them to be able to use the funds in a way that is responsible and that's going to honor the legacy of Rotary. We want them to be effective in their service with the support of the foundation. So the best way for us to train them and educate them and inspire them the way that we've been inspired is to do it together. So transitioning over here to the right, why right now? I've been talking with Rotary clubs lately, and I think it's very common and understandable for us to say, well, I'll get to that Rotaract thing after COVID. Things are a little hectic right now, which I do understand. And while that is a regional decision and totally up to you and your club, I would encourage you to just maybe think about it in reverse. Right now, we have a really unique opportunity for real-time partnership. So, we're transitioning to online formats for the time being. Maybe when things go back to normal, we still want our clubs to have some sort of online component. Rotaractors can help in that area. So in addition to this, we're seeing different skill sets be needed in the Rotary family that we haven't really had a true need for before. And it's from bringing in these ideas and these skill sets and these different talents that we're seeing our clubs evolve and adapt and continue to be able to serve despite the time. And this other point here is one of my favorite quotes: "We are made relevant by the diversity of those we allow to experience the magic of Rotary." You know, this sort of transcends age, it transcends perspective. It really just means, you know, when we're looking at two different individuals, when we bring those two people together that might have different experiences, history, ideas, service areas of passion, when we bring them together and allow them to experience Rotary as partners, really great things can happen for our organization, our community. And last but not least, you might find yourself having a little bit more time on your hands. So I encourage you to use some of that time, have virtual coffee with a Rotaractor, get to know them, get to understand their perspective, and give them an opportunity to learn from you. I think you'd be really surprised what can come out of that relationship. So this elevation of Rotaract, I just wanted to touch on a few quick points, what it actually means. So we've removed the age cap. For those of you who maybe not as familiar, Rotaract traditionally has been for 18 to 30-year-old young professionals. So now what we've said is we've gotten rid of the age limit. It can be any young professional. And the idea is we're providing Rotaractors with not as much of a time constraint. So they're having the ability to decide, okay, which channel in Rotary is the most effective for me, is going to most model the experience I'm looking for to be an effective service-oriented leader. In addition, I mentioned this a bit before, we've removed the possible sponsor and sponsoree limitations. So the idea is that Rotaractors will be more free to engage with different Rotary clubs that maybe support the same cause that they do, that offer skill sets they're interested in acquiring, that kind of thing. So it makes things a little bit more cohesive as opposed to locking a Rotaract club in with a specific Rotary sponsor. In addition, they can help co-sponsor Interact clubs. We're also seeing Rotaractors be given access to training at the zone and district level right alongside Rotarians to really facilitate that dialogue. We talked about the access to the foundation, but last but not least, there will be a due structure coming down from Rotary International for our Rotaract clubs. And while it is minimal, it's important for them to understand the added value in doing so, which, you know, we as Rotarians can help set that precedent for them. So these are just a couple of the high-level changes. So long story short, a lot of exciting things coming down the pipeline for Rotaract. And to summarize what all of that really means for us, it's an opportunity, a greater opportunity to intentionally plug in our Rotaractors, to give them greater access to Rotarians in a way that will hopefully facilitate meaningful dialogue and partnership opportunities across the board. And through this, our goal is to inspire forever members of the Rotary family, right? For them to be invested in our work, to understand it, and to understand how they can add value. In addition, this will give your club a new experience to maximize your impact and tap into resources and networks that you may not have before, as well as providing another avenue to engage a different audience. So as we near the end here and I open it up for questions, I just wanted to offer a couple of strategies that I've seen work really well. Obviously, point one is communicate, as the foundation of most things begins with good communication, and engage Rotary too. If you have a Rotaract club in your district that's affiliated with a specific Rotary club, bring them both to your table, bring them both to your club, your next dialogue, and engage them as a team. And it's also about providing that invitation, that opportunity. So when we talk about this, a lot of clubs have seen success with exchanging board positions. So for example, the Rotaractor will serve as a non-voting member on a Rotary Club's board, just to kind of keep that communication intentional and open. And it is through these invitations and these opening of doors that we see Rotaractors thrive and find their place in Rotary with us. So the next couple of points are, you know, important in terms of our perspective and the way that we work together, because it can be challenging to work with people who are from a completely different background, different point in their life, different free time, all of those things. So the key is to treat Rotaractors as equally valued partners, even though they have a lot to learn from us. We as Rotarians have a lot to learn from them too. And we have to figure out how to get to know them in a way that is authentic and selfless so that we can understand our different areas of talent and how we can utilize those strengths to help support their areas for growth. So we do this by asking for perspective, giving value to their ideas, and taking those ideas and creating opportunities, whether it be through a project, a fellowship event, whatever our Rotary Club is doing, incorporating that perspective. And as always, keeping relationship building at the center and remembering that we're all people first and Rotarians and Rotaractors second. So I want to just provide a quick example of a time where this worked really well for myself. So this is a picture of a Rotarian in my Rotary Club here in Richmond. So I had an idea that I mentioned to my club just offhandedly during a meeting about supporting some of the workers on the front line of a local emergency room here in Richmond. And my club really took it and they helped me run with it and helped me bring that idea into fruition, which for me as a newer Rotarian, I've only been a member for 4 years. It just felt really, really great to be a part of a team, a community, and a family of Rotary that gave value to my opinion and my idea and helped turn that project into a reality. So just wanted to throw that in there. So as we close out here, we're really looking at 3 main ideas, right? Communicating, having these open and honest dialogues that Governor Jonathan also mentioned about Rotary, and how we can work together to add value and continue to elevate our Rotaract partners as they make this transition into the Rotary family. And through that, we have an interesting opportunity to adapt, whether it's online meetings, plugging in people in places that we might not have before. And this requires not only teamwork, but also selfless partnerships. And it's through these partnerships that we remain a people-centric and people-oriented organization, where we are empowering the individual to learn from their areas of growth, their weaknesses per se, and plugging in their strengths so they can continue to thrive and give back to the organization. So I will close out just with this point in mind. We're the Rotary family, and we will come through each part of the dynamic in our communities and in our world together. It's just a matter of remembering and trying to intentionally seek out the different ideas and perspectives that we could bring to the table to make the work that we're doing relevant. So for those of you that I don't know quite well yet, I think Governor Jonathan knows this, but I am a quote person. This is one of my favorites. So I just want to close out and leave this with you all today. The foundation upon which Rotary is built is friendship. On no less firm ground could it have stood, from Paul Harris himself. So when we're thinking about, going back to our clubs and trying to engage, whether it be young professionals or teachers or people who might not have had easy access to our clubs and to our work before, just encourage you to keep this foundation in mind, because it is through this belief in friendship and this foundation of friendship that we as Rotarians have a unique ability and desire to lift those up around us. And when we remain true to that, we open the door and give more people than ever before the chance to experience Rotary. So with that, I will turn it over to any questions. I just want to leave my contact information here. So please feel free to reach out to me at any point if you have thoughts going into the next year or after that. I'm happy to talk about anything and do anything that I can to help you guys. But thank you so much for allowing me to be here. It's been great. So I will stop sharing here and turn it back to Governor Jonathan.
Great stuff. Absolutely great stuff. So I want to open it up now to folks who have any questions, thoughts. I know we have one question on chat we can talk about. Anyone?
I actually have a question, if I may. I feel really ignorant here, but our club does not do anything with the Rotaract Club. I know they exist. I don't know why they exist separately from Rotary clubs and why. I mean, how did that happen? And is it just a separate group of people? Are they just all young people and we're all old people? I mean, why is there a Rotaract contingent?
Yeah, so Rotaract was initially designed kind of like the minor leagues of Rotary, so to speak. So we're all Rotary. It's just sort of a different membership channel. So you're exactly right. It is designed for young professionals to have an opportunity to experience Rotary, because the reality is that many of our young professionals are not quite ready to dive full into a Rotary club, where they may not be able to make the meeting times given the age group that they're in and being new to their career or still a student, right? Many people in that 18 to 30 range are still in university. So coming to a lunch meeting or an early morning meeting may not be an option. In addition, the dues, the financial barrier of being a Rotarian can be challenging for that age group. So the idea is that Rotaract is not necessarily a middle step between Interact and Rotary, but it's more of an experience of enhancement and development. So that way, our Rotaractors will have sort of low risk opportunities to develop as leaders, to really buy into the value and opportunity of Rotary. So that way, when it does come time where it makes more sense for their time and finances to transition into Rotary, they'll be more dedicated, more engaged and less likely to lose that.
Yeah, I mean, it's no surprise to me, given that dynamic and demographic, that we don't have more younger people in our Rotary clubs, because they can all go be Rotaractors and not have the commitment or not have the dues, or what's their structure?
So Rotaract clubs function the exact same way that Rotary clubs do. There are two different models. They can meet at a university and be officially affiliated with an institution, or they can be community-based. And so those clubs meet very similarly to Rotary clubs, whether it be at an office, at a library, coffee shop. A lot of them do breweries, given the age bracket. It just kind of depends. But those two models, they have officers just like we do. They have elections. They do service within the 6 areas of focus. So all of that is structured the exact same. Many of the clubs don't meet weekly like most Rotary clubs do. They'll meet bi-weekly, and then on the off weeks they'll do a service or a social. So structurally, that's really the only difference. But
do we know of any clubs that include those structures in their Rotary club, so that there's no need for a Rotaract club, but there's a group of younger people that meet bi-weekly that don't pay big dues, but they're really Rotarians? So, or is the point that they're not ready to be full Rotarians yet in their commitment?
So I think, when we're looking at satellite clubs and e-clubs, they were kind of designed to fill that space that you're mentioning. But the challenge is that if you're a member of a satellite club or an e-club, you are considered a Rotarian. So you are paying the, at bare minimum, international and district level dues for a Rotarian, which, roughly, depending on what your district dues are, on the low end, it can be $130 a year. Which can be a tough sell in some cases to college students or young professionals. So the idea is just that it's not meant to replace anything or to say that one is better than the other. It's about this idea of channels, right? If we want to effectively broaden our reach and engage people that we haven't before, there have to be different touch points, right, that are going to model and mimic what structure they're looking for that's going to work best for them. So, for example, if I'm approaching a young professional, I wouldn't say, oh, so you're 30, you could be in Rotaract, let's put you into Rotaract. No, it's more of a discussion of what does your time look like, what do your talents look like, what are you looking to get out of this experience? And in a lot of cases, for that age group in particular, they're looking for something more Rotaract oriented until they're a little bit more stable professionally and personally to make a transition into Rotary.
I was a Rotaractor way back when, and I started, at my university. So it was accessible to me. I didn't have to go off campus. It was a part of the service opportunities within my university, and that's how I got engaged at first. And then I moved to a community-based club after I graduated for just a short time, and then I ended up joining Rotary. But it allowed me to get access to the principles and the practice of Rotary, in a very accessible way. And I think that probably hasn't changed. I think it's still sort of the concept. I think younger people are more advanced. I think now, I think that a lot of folks will just maybe, if they have the financial wherewithal, to join a Rotary club. But what I see too is a lot of our clubs, and I see a lot of clubs doing some really great things. I see a lot of clubs, they come in and there's nothing wrong with this, but they do the pledge and then they do these things, and it's so formalized that it's not what a young person wants to do for now. They want to meet, they want to talk, they want to have action, they want to get something done, they want to enjoy that downtime. If it's so formalized, then and they're not really connecting with other people, it's a different dynamic. So
Right. No, and you're absolutely right, Governor Jonathan. I think that is a big part of it. It goes back to what experience are they looking for?
Right.
Not to say that one is better than the other or superior to the other. They're just different. And in order for Rotary to continue to adapt, we have to have those different options.
James, I think you had your hand up. Jim, you're on mute.
There's a couple things I want to say. I'm going to be the youth chair next year, and Rotaract falls under that purview. Thank you very much, Harry, for that opportunity. But more importantly, Jonathan Lucas is going to be, we're going to combine, to a large extent, membership with youth. And Jonathan is going to be the membership chair and Rotaract chair next year, because we've already initiated plans, not just talk, but plans to at least establish one Rotaract club at a community college, community-based. And the Alex, the one thing you've talked about is connecting Rotaract with the clubs. We also want to connect the other direction, which is Interact clubs. At one point, we had 500 participants in our Interact. I was an Interact sponsor, and all those people are in the community colleges or nearby colleges, and there should be a natural connection between Interact, Rotaract, and then adult membership, and that's where we're going to work. And we're very lucky that Bob Paulson, who is also on here, and he's one of the club presidents who's going to be involved in that next year.
And Bob Connie had a question. He actually addressed this in his chat. So I don't know, Bob, you want to mention that or what you're going to mention?
Yeah, our club has an Interact and a Rotaract club. Interact at Annandale High School, Rotaract at Nova's Annandale campus, and we also have a second venue, which is on the campus, which is our members who are they're basically all members of Nova's. They're all professors at Nova, so they are more service oriented. They don't have the structured meetings like our club has, but they go off and do service projects. And we do include the Rotaract in all of our service projects, and we include Interact in our service projects also. So we've tried to make that a smooth transition. But there is a fall off between the Rotaract and the Rotary, particularly they're in a 2-year school, so then they
Right.
go disappear somewhere else and not necessarily have a Rotaract group at that place. So we haven't had that smooth transition from Rotaract into Rotary. We tried to do that, but it hasn't happened yet.
Right, right. And I think, a lot of districts feel that, mine included. And we started noticing a shift. We had more of our Rotaractors eventually find their way to Rotary here in 7600 when we had the formation of community-based clubs. Membership in those tend to be a little bit longer, right? Because they're not officially tied to a university. So there's not that turnover that we deal with in academic schools. So, what we're seeing happen is for our community college students and our university students, when they graduate and they're trying to figure out, okay, what's next? A lot of them are transitioning into that community-based model that we have that they can kind of just naturally step into. So we're not losing them in that shuffle after graduation. Yeah.
Question. What's the motivation for a Rotaractor to become a Rotarian when there's no age limit and it costs so much less to be a Rotaractor?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. And I think that will be to be determined depending upon how many people embrace the age cap. So right now, clubs have the ability to put age, not a set restriction, but they can kind of set their own age limit on the club. So it'll be interesting to see how that dynamic plays out from individual club standpoint. But, I think the end goal is that a couple of things. Rotaractors will be paying dues. So starting July 1 of 2022, there is a dues decision that's been made for Rotaract. It is slightly modified in comparison to what we're used to as Rotarians, just given the different experience. But so, the idea is hopefully they won't stay in Rotaract forever. It is dictated in the Constitution and Rotary policy that it'll remain young professionals. They're just putting less of a stipulation on it because what was happening is, someone was hitting 30, they were approaching their 31st birthday, and we were telling them you can't be in Rotaract anymore. But so I'm 25, we'll be 26 next year, and I'm still looking at 4 more years of medical school, right? So, many people in that position, Rotary is not an option by 30. So, with that, if they could stay in Rotaract a little bit longer and in a timeline that matches their individual needs, we're less likely to lose them in that transition.
Suzanne, and then Earl.
Yeah, I wanted to remind you all that Northern Virginia had a very active community Rotaract club that was chartered in 2013, and unfortunately, it only lasted for about 3 years. They were very, very active service-wise, and their issue was that they were having trouble trying to get new members. And also because the Northern Virginia area has a real big turnover, just like colleges do. And a lot of people, come into this area and have jobs right out of college, and then they stay for maybe 2 years and then move on. There is a Rotaract club that is very powerful and very, very active, which is in the district. And they have been, I guess they've actually been active and around for probably 15 years or more. And I know in 2013, they had over 100 members. And Alex, you may want to try to talk to some of those folks and see what some of their successes have been, particularly when you're talking about the district where so many people work on the Hill and the turnover there is quite busy. But I do agree it is a terrific way for young professionals to get involved in Rotary because they are so a community and so service-minded, and they can afford to do it and not be hampered by the time and money constraints.
Right.
Thank
Absolutely.
you. Earl?
Yes, we have a large club, and we fairly recently established a satellite club, about 14 members currently, and it looks very much like a community-based Rotaract club, all young professionals, and they meet twice a month and all that sort of thing. I'm thinking about, should we think about transitioning them to a Rotaract club, and what are the gives and takes and so forth? I'd just like to hear what you have to say about something like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a great question, Earl. And I would say it really depends on what the members want, right? So if they are happy with the experience that they're having, then I probably would not change it. I think the challenge there is that it would essentially look like you're down a Rotary Club, right? You'd be losing members if you'd made that transition, because right now Rotaractors are not counted in the official 1.2 million Rotarians in the world. They're not included right now in your district count of Rotarians. So that's something to consider. But I think, it's largely an experience. If they're okay paying the dues that are set up for that club, and that's not a burden, and you're not having other people be turned away because of that, then I think it sounds like a model that's working. And I think that's one of the things to keep in mind with all of these great questions is just that, Rotaractors are no longer a program, right? We talked about that a little bit. They're a partner. So the idea is they're officially a membership type, just as an e-club is, a satellite club is. They're just not Rotarian. So the experience is meant to be different and individualistic, but they are considered equal to Rotarians, if that makes sense. Getting back to your question, Earl, I think it's about meeting the needs of the people that you have right now. And if you feel that the model is doing that, then I would probably keep it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's addressing the satellite club. We're encouraging Barry to look into that at the Fairfax Club next year. I think the big difference is the age. One, with the satellite club, you can do youth activities, but you're also connecting with so many different adults that are connected with youth. One of the things we want to do next year is to leverage our connections with youth, and so that seems to tend to trend towards the satellite aspect, where Rotaract. The one thing I want to say about the Rotaract is that we talked about top and down. The other one is horizontal. Too many barriers in Rotary, where this person does that, this category does that. We need to do more inter club. So the community, the community aspect of all of that works better when you have at least more than one club working together. So those are just a certain ways where you can distinguish the Rotaract from the satellite. They're similar, but they have different roles, different focuses.
Absolutely.
Jonathan, Barry's got something. He's had his hand up for a while on the screen.
All right, Barry.
I said what I had to say.
I got a question.
Go ahead, Bob.
One way to transition the Rotaractors into Rotary is we've been looking at a rule of 35 that would the clubs would underwrite some of the newer members with their dues and stuff to reduce the impact. We have the rule of 85 for the older members, so we're looking at a rule of 35 for the younger members. And question, do the Rotaractors get the Rotary magazine?
It's a good question. They do not officially. They do have the ability to go in and sign up to be on the service, but no, they don't receive that. A lot of the time, the partner Rotary Club will add them to the distribution list so that they can receive it. I know they did that for myself when I was first starting out in Rotaract, so that's an option. But no, they're not officially getting it right now. That might change with all of the recent changes, but everything with this whole Elevate Rotaract piece is so new. It's hard to predict exactly what will happen.
I like your concept about putting a Rotaractor on as a non-voting member of the board. We're going to try to get that done. I think that's
I would love to hear how that works out. We've seen great success with it, but I'd like to hear your feedback.
do we give out Rotary pins to the Rotaractors? Or they get a Rotaract pin?
There's Rotaract pins.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if this transition is supposed to be a Rotaractor is a Rotarian, do we want to give them different pins?
So they're not Rotarians, so to speak. I know it's a little bit convoluted. They're still Rotaractors. It's just a different membership type within Rotary.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think their brand is going to remain the same, at least from what we're seeing right now. They will still be called a Rotaractor. They're just equal to Rotarians instead of a partner.
Okay.
I mean, instead of a program, I'm sorry.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Tom Friedel here from the Stafford Club. Wanted to ask, are Rotaractors allowed to be members of organizations inside of Rotary, like the International Fellowship of Scouting Rotarians?
Yeah, that's a great question. A lot of them that I've looked into, they do allow that collaboration. It depends on the rules of the fellowship, though, or what their bylaws state. But my understanding is that most of them do allow that. So if a Rotaractor is interested and they're able to meet the financial and time obligations of joining the fellowship, then yeah, I do know several Rotaractors who are involved. It's a great question.
Yeah, I figure that being as though your Rotaractors are in that younger category, and several of our Rotaractors, have that relationship between, the Girl Scout and the Scouting BSA program. You know what I mean? There's sort of that linkage there as well. One of my goals has been to try to get a better reach into the scouting communities and get those certificates presented at the Eagle Courts and the Gold Award ceremonies, because a lot of those individuals may not have a relationship with Rotary, and that may be an introductory opportunity if they didn't have that in their high school.
Right. That's a very creative idea. I might steal that from you if you don't mind.
Please do. I don't have a patent on it.
Not yet.
All right, we're at 56 after the hour. Any final questions? Pat is the one that moved her screen. I thought she was trying to look around the corner, and then we can't really do that.
Alex, I correct me if I'm wrong, but I do think that Rotaractors can join the Rotary action groups, which are different than the fellowships.
Yes, I believe you are right. I do know a couple of Rotaractors. I don't think they have to be a dual member. I think you can join if you're only a Rotaractor. Yeah, but again, I think it depends on, are they interested? Can they meet the obligations? Those things. Yeah, right. Absolutely.
Last question. Is there any activity to increase the partnership between Rotaract and Interact?
That's a great question. And, I think more of that is coming. My hope is that more of that is coming. I think they took a big step a couple years ago when they made the decision that Rotaract clubs can co-sponsor an Interact club. So basically, if you mentioned your Rotary club is sponsoring both or partnering with both, so in theory, your Rotaract group could work with you as mentors to the Interactors. So I think that's a great starting point. And then, in addition, if you all are familiar with RILA, the Rotary Youth Leadership Award, a lot of times our Rotaractors actually run that program. So they have an opportunity to kind of build those relationships, talk about the clubs at the universities that a lot of these Interactors are going to be graduating and going to. So I think opportunities like that for them to be, again, at the same table with the help of Rotary, I think that's going to really increase that cohesion.
Right. Thank you.
Good question, Bob. All right, my friends, thank you for another great hour, another great lunch and learn. Alex, thank you for departing such wonderful information to us.
Yeah.
You have to hold up a pen here.
Yeah,
Got pen.
thank you.
There you go.
Thank you very much, Alex. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. That was wonderful.
Yeah, really
so much.
informative.
He is thanks for, well, just to you personally, thank you for being a leader in 7600, a leader in this state, and a leader in this world. And it gives us hope as we move Rotary forward, even during this time.
Thank you. Thank you.
And good luck in med school.
Thank you. I'm going to need all the luck I can get. I appreciate it.
You do great.
You might wind up like Jonathan, so.
Yeah.
I might end up being one of her patients because I'm accident prone. So next week, the Aussies are invading. So same bat time, same bat channel, and we're going to have a lot of fun with our friends from Perth.
Right.
Thank
Jonathan,
you.
one quick thing that's a little bit out of case, but we talked about the meeting that people got an invitation for. Please, a reminder, you must register in order to join that meeting. Because just clicking on something, you must register because otherwise you will not get the proper connectivity.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Suzanne. Thanks for the announcement. All right, my friends, have a great weekend. See you.
Everybody stay
Bye.
safe.